What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reality Kingdom. I'm your host. We're joined by a wonderful host, Lee. Lee, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Leaving as one of the head Jaggernauts, this has been a
Period.
great finish for me. I don't know, even a few days after the final, I'm just, reveling in it. I was right. I just want to make that let it be known
Oh.
that Lee from the Reality Kingdom was right. Weeks in advance. Weeks in
Ooh.
advance. Bitch, run the tapes back. Real ones know. Real ones know. Check my
Ooh.
credentials. I was right, okay? And Jag, the better player, walked
Ooh.
out with the money at the end of the day. You see what happens when you listen to Lee?
Ooh.
That's all I gotta
Okay,
say.
came in
I need to talk my
real
shit
ready.
a little bit.
Real ready to talk your shit. No, you ain't that up, you ain't that up, you ain't that
Honestly,
up,
I
you
feel
ain't
like
that
this
up,
is
you
because
ain't
I've
that
been
up.
watching baddies recently. I just feel like I was
It's
Natalie
rubbing
Nunn
off
just
just
now.
like that.
Natalie Nunn just took over my body.
That's what it gave. It did definitely give Natalie none. You ate that up though.
But
Listen,
no, for
if
real
you
though. Like I clocked that Jag deservingly was going to win this season weeks ago. And I mean, here we are.
here we are.
Some of the girls don't want to
He's
admit.
the winner.
Some of the girls are still saying actually that Matthew Klotz is the better player. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, I don't really have many. This is my issue with them being compared. Is that to me they're both not that good. So when it comes to the
Don't do my man
comparison, I'm
like
like,
that.
I mean, we're literally about to get into it. You're gonna see because we're about to get into the, how I really think about them overall. To me, I mean, hey, who cares? The fact that people are going on
Do
Twitter
you
saying
think?
it.
Do you think the better player of this season won?
That's a hard question.
That's a hard question.
That's a hard
for you.
question.
For
I think the
you.
person who deserved to win won. I
Period.
can say that
Period.
100%.
Period.
Period.
And
Better
why was
because
Cory?
playing deserving to win to me, it could be you played harder, you had more heart, you put more energy into the game. But just because you did all of that doesn't necessarily mean you're the player who played better. So that's why
I
I'm
just
like, ooh.
I like, and I remember saying this too. Like for Jag, he has to win this season to gain any respect as an actual BB player. Like if he went away without the win, he would have been ridiculed, especially after
And
taking Matt.
disregarded.
He would have been ridiculed, disregarded. Like I mean, trash, probably worse than Cody type shit. It would have been bad for
Yeah.
him. So I do like that. Now the flip has to happen. Like right now, some people are probably mad. They'll get over it because at the end of the day, he's in history. He's cemented in history. He's the winner. At the end of the day, you can be mad about
Period.
whatever the fuck he won. He will always be the winner of People of 25, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's like I just hate that even when people are trying to analyze his game, honestly, I just like they're being biased or just not looking at the full picture. Like to
Mm-hmm.
say that he was carried by competitions or anything like that. I feel like there were weeks where he was not in power and he still showed us that he was the more active and powerful player. Like the
Period.
jury saw it. Like I'm not gonna sit up here and say, we always confer to what the jury decides. If the jury decided that Jag was the better player, why are we questioning that? They played the game with them. They are the ones who are experiencing this situation. So it's what they're seeing. At the end of the day, Matt was the type of player to where he didn't need to win competitions to show how good he was because he was a social player. Social
Mm-hmm.
players don't need too many competition wins. It was the lack of agency that he took in the game. And that jury roundtable, what did they say? We know Jack had power. We don't know about Matt and Bowie. And Matt had so many instances where he could have shown that he was the one actually running the ship, and he didn't take it. And because I don't think he
Even at the
actually
final
believed
speech.
even in the final speech. And I don't think he couldn't say that in his final speech because I don't think he was playing like that. I think people thought that he was playing this game that was a little bit more intricate where he was, playing Jag and trying to get Jag out in front of him and he wasn't actually loyal to him. Maybe he was more loyal to Cirie. Maybe he had backup plans that he was working out. And what we saw specifically on his HOH week, that was not the case. His loyalty was to Jag. This is what he said in his final speech. He was never going to cut Jag. He was
Period.
always going to go to the end with Jag. That's what he
Period.
wanted to do. It was loyalty. People are just loyal in that way. And I think Matt was always number one loyalty was to Jag. So regardless of the little arbitrary actions that you thought he was doing and you applied it to game, I don't think that that's what that was. Like I think that he was always envisioning a final two with Jag. And he thought that his social game was better and he could beat him in that way. But there was just a lack of agency that he took right around the time the game flipped. He sat back and basically didn't do anything. From my perspective, a lot of people are arguing about the Cameron's week about how he was the one who had to get Jag on board. But at the end of the day, if Jag wanted Blue to go home on the week that Cameron went home, I'm pretty sure Jag would have made it happen. Just like he made everything else happen on the weeks that he was not the HOH. I just feel like I don't even like that people are trying to poke holes in the man's story. It's like this is what happened. Like I think, and I rewatched the final speech because a lot of people are trying to say he was lying in that final speech. I rewatched it. I feel like he was definitely being compassionate, and he was kind of like he was. I think at the end of the day, in that final speech, you have to make the jury see that you're the more deserving winner. So I feel like that he was. I don't even want to say bending the truth because he was saying what he was doing, but like when he starts saying stuff like "I'm the most dominant, masterful player of the season,"
he was arguing his case to
like
win.
that.
When you're
Like,
arguing your
exactly.
case to win, you're going to say it in a different way. I feel like that whole idea is just crazy to me because every person who's good at speeches knows that that's what you should do. Like he literally argued his case to win better than Matt did, and that's just that on that. I feel like, and to your question when you were asking who do I feel like play better because all the girls are talking about it. What I don't understand is why people are talking about it so much. I don't think this is a conversation.
Because people really was under the impression that Matt was the front runner.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like,
and that Jag was just some lackey. I don't know how Jag was the lackey when he was the one in front the entire time. Whether that was intentional from
he
Matt
was the leader. He said it. So I think that's my response to that is I don't even understand why the conversation is being had. I do feel like I will get into how I feel about them when we do the actual ratings because I don't even know right now. I'm not thinking about that. But when the conversation comes up between the two of them, I don't necessarily understand why it's such a heat. I feel like people get really like annoyed and passionate and irritated about the Jag of it all. Like people really are upset if people think Jag is a good player or stuff like that. That's kind of how I feel. And to me, it's like I don't understand why that is because that's what came first. What it seems like came first was people being very stern about the fact that Jag is not a good player and we're not going to accept this. And then that's what kind of spread throughout Twitter and then just the community. And then it seemed like I don't know, like people were just lying about Jag's game in a way to where they're saying he wasn't doing anything, and Matt were really lying about Matt's game to say that Matt was doing way more. And then it just became this imbalance. And now it just seems people are just still going with it, even though I don't think that was true. I don't think it was that Matt was just running it and that he was doing this, this, and this. It's like all of this stuff. And it's my question is, why did it even come in the first place? I don't understand it. I don't think either of them were playing so masterfully to where the other one just shouldn't have won. And people were upset. People were upset that Matt lost. People were saying that Matt, the better player, lost and da 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 da. I don't think it was such a big difference for you to be upset about it. The only time I would be upset is those big situations where it's Dan Giesling or it's even if it's a Paul, like when it's someone who actually genuinely was the front runner and played circles around people, then I think that's when you should get there. These people didn't play circles. Matt didn't play circles around Jag. Jag also didn't play circles around Matt, but it's like that's why I don't understand the passion in this situation.
The issue is people, and I get it. You know, this is a social game. I mean, it is a social game. I think there's more to it than just being social, but it is a social game, and I think that Matt, he kind of is the embodiment of that. Like he was just a social player. I don't think that he had much strategic forethought, honestly. Some people may think he did. I don't see it. And it's all about perception. Like I've seen people, they argue. They'll say, "Well, Matt did this specific thing." And that's why this happened. And personally, I think you're perceiving it in that manner, but I don't perceive it in that manner. I think a lot of people just perceive Matt's actions as more intentional than what they actually were. And I feel like his final speech was just an embodiment of what he was truly doing, which was telling people what they wanted to hear. Telling people what they want to hear is going to get you far, especially when you look like Matt. Like, point blank, period. Especially in the game of Big Brother. Like, it's not shocking that he made it that far. I do think that he has great qualities. I just feel like why people are so passionate is because they thought that Matt was this pinnacle type of player and Jag was just the worst of the bottom. And I get it because even going through some of his bad weeks, and he was bad. Like Jag was bad, but Jag even admits that in his interviews. He's like, I know I was bad. Like the point is, I progressed, and that was my only thing. It's like I can recognize that this man was eliminated 10-0 and all of these other things. Whoop de whoop de whoop. He volunteered to go back on the block after coming back. I get that that was terrible, but we cannot ignore the good work that he did, and then also just chump it up to comp wins because going back to it, the Mimi and Cameron week when they got evicted, he was not HOH. The Cirie week, the double eviction, he was not HOH or the veto holder for that matter during the double eviction.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, we can't just say he was winning everything. You know what I mean? I think that was a part of it, and I get it. I get that people are upset, but you have to be upset with production. What was Jack supposed to do? Not win. And I also feel like we have to analyze a little bit more. There are people who get power in this game and don't do anything with it. There are people who targets people just because someone else told them to do so. Bowie James is an example when she took out Cameron. Hell, Matt is an example when he let Cirie go home. And Jag was like, well, take out Cirie. Like, there are people who get power and they refuse to do anything with it. The reason why I started respecting Jag, not because he was winning competitions. I'm the main person that hate a bitch that just win competitions. It's what you do when you win those competitions. He was winning. He was making sure who he wanted to go home with home. He was trying to make deals. He was trying to make out theories and things like that. Like, he was being an active player. He was pushing his influence. And no one can deny that who he wanted to go home from these weeks from Mimi to the end was all what Jag wanted. So if we're not denying that, then why are we like, he could have easily got those HOHs and let Matt run it and let Bowie run it, or just sat there and did nothing, came up with no type of plans, no type of ideas. He could have easily done that. A lot of people do that, and he didn't.
And I think that's the thing. I think people are overweighing his like bad parts of his game because Matt made little to no mistakes, and I think with Jag they see the mistakes and then they're just like, you just can't be a good player because you made mistakes. But my thing is, good players make mistakes all the time. Cirie was making a bunch of mistakes.
The most hated person his season in the earlier phase. That was mistakes, and he still went on to win the game.
Yeah, like, I think that's the thing. They're harping on his mistakes, and it's specifically his eviction. But even with the mistakes, Cirie made mistakes this season. She even admitted she shouldn't have took out Red. She shouldn't have took out Hisam. And we all know she shouldn't have done it because we see what happened. That was a mistake, and Cirie can still be regarded as a good player. Like you said, Dan made mistakes. He can be a good player. We saw Vanessa make a bunch of mistakes. There's been so many players in the past. Dr. Will, who was hated by the whole cast because he was not good socially. Dan made mistakes, so he was hated by his whole cast twice. Like, there's people in the past who we regard as some of the best players ever who have made mistakes, and we can still look past the fact that even though they made mistakes, they still played good in other ways. And that's what happened with Jag. He made mistakes at the beginning, but he still played good at the end. So I don't see why we can't just take that all away. And then when y'all talk about like he got evicted, so he could never be a good player, but that doesn't make sense because Cirie got evicted this season. Well, I will never say Cirie's not a good player just because she got evicted.
She is a great player.
I will never say someone is not a good. Dr. Will got evicted in BB7. That doesn't mean he's not one of the best players ever. I will never say that someone isn't a good player just because they got evicted. Like, Jag got evicted, but he still can be a good player. Mecole, who is one of the best winners of all time, got evicted in her first season twice. I'm not going to say Mecole's not a good player just because she's been evicted before. It's just not true. There are times you get evicted. A lot of Big Brother is luck. A lot of Big Brother is circumstance. A lot of people get a lot of help. Taylor could have gotten evicted last season, and I'm never saying she's not a good player. Taylor made mistakes during her HOH week too. Like, there's winners. There's great players who've made mistakes, who've been literally evicted, and they're still good winners, like Mecole. It's like I don't understand why it's so
much vitriol.
It's so hard for people to see it with Jag when we've seen it. So many people who say Mecole's a good player are also saying that Jag isn't because he went home. Mecole didn't even win her first season. So it's like, I don't understand that. I don't necessarily.
And that's the thing. It's 100-day season. Like, when he was evicted, like, there was so much game after he was evicted. Like, that's why I don't understand. And like I said, it's not like he was the house target when he got evicted. It was Cameron's HOH. The house target won that sent him home, and he didn't even go home that week. And I think it is a testament to his social game, truly. Also, the fact that he didn't just go home. We have to think about these comp beasts that have appeared in the past, like the Franks, the Michael Bruners, the Victor and BB18. As soon as the people get a chance, even the people that they're closest with, as soon as they get a chance, they take them out. Cameron from this season is a good example. It doesn't matter if you're working with them or not. At some point, that person gets taken out because everyone realizes that they're a dangerous player. Jag was able to maintain a power base that did not take him out, even when he was not in power. Look at the double. And you can say, oh, it's because Bowie is stupid, or you can say, oh, it's because Matt is stupid. It doesn't matter. Because I always say, people always argue, like, oh, was Derek a good player? Was his cast a little dumb? People say something about Dan. Like, I feel like, honestly, I'll say this. It's really, from watching some of these previous seasons, it's a mixture of both. Like, you kind of have to be a good player that's going to be able to work the cast in a way that's going to make these plans work. And honestly, the people got to be a little dumb. Like, the people, honestly, I think that there is a slight of both, because you're not going to trick an actual good player. And sometimes they're not able to do so, but they are able to trick the scrubs. And I think Big Brother cast a lot of scrubs. But it's like, I'm not going to take that away from him because Matt and Bowie are just dumb.
Like
he was able to create safety.
Yeah, to say Bowie is dumb and that's why he stayed, we could go back to Dan and BB14 and say Frank is dumb, that's why Dan stayed, and you would be taking everything Dan did away from him, and that's just not fair. So to do it here with Jag is unfair because you don't do it with Dan. You don't do it with Whit. Like, the BB7 cast was stupid. Janelle was dumb to listen to Dan every single week she won HOH. But y'all don't say Will's not that good because Janelle is dumb. Dan's not that good because Frank is dumb. I do sometimes. And y'all be getting mad at me when I say it. That's the gag. So it's like, honestly, if you're not going to be consistent, just wrap it up. Unless you think that Dan only made it to Final 2 and BB14 because the other players were dumb, then you shouldn't mention it here when Bowie and Matt are being dumb, honestly. So I think that argument should just go away altogether and wrap it up. So I just don't see the anger with Jags win. I don't see it personally. I don't think it should be that. People should be that upset because what's that boy name? Matt is not an all-time player. He's not this legend. So who cares? At the end of the day, if he's not a legend, I don't care. I was mad about Tiffany. In this new era, the only person I was mad about going home was Tiffany Mitchell, because that's the only person who I would consider one of those legendary players who deserved to make it to the end because she played so good. No one has played that good for me to be upset at the winner. I don't necessarily understand that. But hey, we move.
I agree. Because it wasn't Jack who was going to be, I guess, Matt, but I mean, I would have been happy about that. So
yeah, and I wouldn't.
I mean, you can't please everybody.
I
personally have been pleased 3 years in a row.
I'm winning. Okay, y'all. So I looked a little bit more into the winner ranking and exactly where I would put Jag in the season ranking and where I would put this season. So I have them numbered. There's been 24 winners because we're not including Eddie. On this list, I put Jag just kind of low.
Yeah.
I would probably put Jag at 16 or 17, which is by Dick and Steve. He's like right above Dick and Steve for me.
I mean,
that's kind of where I got him.
At the end of the day, I could definitely see.
And I don't think these are bad winners, so I'm not that.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, in the overall winning ranking, I can definitely see why people will put him low. Because, like I said, I mean, there were mistakes. I think that in this controlled environment of Big Brother 25, he definitely deserves it, especially with the end game, how things are working out. Oop, 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 oop. But in the overall player, overall winner, I can see why he's low.
Yeah. It's not that high, but honestly, it's not. People want him to be 24. He's the worst winner ever because of this asterisk. I don't believe in this asterisk. We already went over how I don't feel like if you're evicted, you're a bad player. There's many winners who've been evicted. Move it along. So I don't necessarily think that I consider that an asterisk. Even the evil Dick of it all, like he's near Dick on my list because Dick isn't at the bottom. That's why Dick isn't at the just booty hole bottom just because he had this quotations like twist that helped him out. Baby, there's a twist every season that helps people out every season. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to get past that. Period. For the season overall, I would put, because there's been 24 seasons. I would put minus BB1. This one for me would be like 15, right above BB21 for me. Right above BB21, which isn't that low. There's terrible seasons out there. BB9, no. BB19, no. BB15, no. BB16, no. So it's and then BB21, it's like above that. So it's like 15, top 15. So same as the winner. I'm just feeling like, lower tier. What are the tiers? Bottom tier, lower tier. So that's how I'm feeling right now. But hey, we move. We can get into the final player ratings I know that's right. Boom. Barracuda. Jag is the winner, of course.
Period.
He's looking golden. You're
Jag
so
Daddy.
golden. Da, 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 da. Um, boom. This is the overall player rating. On the top is what we gave the person as they were getting evicted from the house, how we were feeling about them overall while they were getting evicted from the house. And then on the bottom, we're just going to recalibrate that. Look at that again, because baby, sometimes we just be now that I'm looking at it, I know I'm going to change like a lot of these, to be honest. Period. Let's get into it. Kirsten, Lee. When Kirsten left, you gave her a 2. How are you feeling about Kirsten?
Yeah, that's funny because you said that because I don't even think I'm gonna change many of these. Honestly, I'm gonna stick with the 2 on Kirsten. I think we just didn't get much from her at all, and then what we did get, she just wasn't the best socially in the game. I mean, we've talked about it about me as a black person, I probably wouldn't have cared what she was doing, but not everyone thinks on that level, so it is what it is. I just think this definitely was not the show for her. I want to see her on the challenge. I want to see her somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I can agree that this wasn't the show for her. I'm gonna have to move her down to the 2. Um, it wasn't a great performance at all. It just wasn't the show for her. Like you could tell that she didn't know what she was doing, and when it came to like her trying to make all these alliances and her doing a lot, and she didn't know how to control like her being on the block. It was a lot going on. It was just such a rough situation. I do wish like a part of me wishes I could have seen Kirsten not have to just automatically be nommed
Yeah, same.
or make it past week 1. You know
That twist
that
was so stupid.
the twist was stupid, and then somebody got evicted or what's it called, ejected from the game, like something like that, to
They
where she could
definitely should
still
have canceled
stay.
that eviction.
Yeah, like I would have wished I could have seen her a little bit more, a little bit longer, but here we are. Next was Reilly. I gave Reilly the 3, and I'm gonna keep Reilly at the 3. She went home so early. When it comes to someone going home early, it's hard to see them like, in my opinion, as it's hard to really analyze how good they could do. I feel like Reilly did have some shooters ready to try to like keep her in the game. With Jag and Mad and Blue, like she had allies, she had friends. Even Cirie was thinking about keeping her, so there was clearly something about her that people liked socially. So I do like that about her. And she was able to win comps, which is why I just gave her like, which is why I think the 3 is fitting. Like she's not a 2, she's not a 1, she's not a flop. She had friends, she had allies, and she could win comps. So for me, a 3 is okay. She just went home so early, to be honest.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, and I saw this when Riley was in the game. I was like, she really built a good core of people around her because Cameron really wanted to protect her and went hard for her. So did Matt, so did Jag, even Blue. Like, she really built a core that she was the center of, and they all made it deep into the motherfucking game. I mean, the person that Riley had a phone two with on day one won the fucking entire thing. Her showman's partner, quotations, is in the final 2. You know what I mean? Like, if Riley had stayed, baby, this could have been a whole different game. Like Reilly could have won, bitch. We could be looking at honestly that could have been T. But I do think she had a little bit more. I feel like a lot of the women this season had potential that went wasted. Really, a lot of them, almost every single one of them, probably
Yeah.
except fucking Bowie Jane. I feel like we saw the full potential of Bowie Jane, but every single woman here, even up to Cirie, it was like there was more to their game. And I think Reilly is one of those people for sure. I'm gonna leave it at the 3-2. I do think that she's someone that could do good in another season if she were to come back. Like her going was very specifically because Hisam had that vendetta against her. Like honestly, if anyone else had won it, she probably wouldn't even been the target. But who knows?
Yeah, I agree. How did you feel about Hisam? Speaking of him.
King Hisam. I like Hisam. Someone else I would rather see on a different show, like The Challenge or something like that. I just feel like with him, there is just a slight lack of social awareness with some of the other people in the game. Like I'm someone who wouldn't have found Hisam offensive, but clearly his allies at the time did, and I just wish he was more aware enough to be able to clock that. However, at the same time, I realized that it was such a quick 180 that maybe he just did not notice it at all because it was crazy how fast they flipped. Like it was like damn overnight. And then he's just such an obvious comp beast. So I don't know. Because I'm thinking of these ratings, I'm thinking about how would they do if they played again. I just feel like Hisam is someone that would always get out early in a game like this. I want to see him like I said on a challenge where it's a lot more about competitions. Like I would hope that he's the person on reindeer games. Because he's more of a comp person, but the streets is saying it's Cameron, which sucks because if we have to cover Cameron winning reindeer games, I have to unalive myself. But back to Hisam, I think I'm gonna just bring it down to the 4. And that's mainly because of the compatibility. I feel like in another season, like it's a possibility that he can make jury based off the competitions win. Maybe he has allies that see him as more useful because his allies just didn't give a damn if he can win comps. They were like, fuck it, we don't care. You know, I think there would in other seasons would be people that be like, okay, let's use Hisam, like how they use Mecole. That's what I thought Hisam was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be the Mecole Bruno this season. We're just gonna use him up until we can take him out and later double. But no, they got rid of that nigga. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think like with Hisam, I think I'm gonna bring him down to I don't know 4. I just feel like with him, I do think like his relationships, it was hard for him to make some like real relationships sometimes. Like I feel like they didn't give a fuck about him. Like they didn't care about him at all. But these people were actually very
they did week 1, which was so confusing.
Yeah, I was just going to say these people were like really particular about their friendship, so I will say that. But even his relationship with Jag and then his relationship with Blue and Izzy, all of them got like severed. It was like, dang, like why nobody like you? And I think it's hard because his personality, especially when he gets in game mode, he starts getting very like just technical. And a lot of the time people want relationships. I feel like for him, it's like I can see him not doing that well ever. Because of that, he might just get too game body, too much in game mode. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna need to do this, right? And I think that Reilly is going to be the target this week, right? So because of that, I would prefer that Reilly does go up against Cameron, right? Because they're the big stretch, right? And it's like that's never gonna do that good, and I don't think he would even be able to like change that much. So I'm gonna bring him down to the 3. Yeah, the comp really keeping them up there for me. Next is Red. I gave Red the 3. I gave Red the 3. Red is also okay at comps. This was a good little comp cast, but they all went home now that I'm thinking about it because Reilly, Hisam, and Red was winning them comps. I think Red, same thing. It's going to be a 3 for me. I think for Reilly, it was like she's good at comps and she had friends. For Hisam, he was really good at comps. And for Red, he was okay at comps and he was like kind of aware of his position here and there. So for me, it's all 3s. How are you feeling about Red?
Yeah, I think what I liked about Red was his awareness of his position slightly. He wasn't too aware. Because there were times where when the professors turned on him, he was just not realizing it, running back to Cameron with information that just was not real. He really ended up getting himself sent out because of trusting people that just were no longer loyal to him at all. And I think it is similar to the Hisam thing where like, could he have actually predicted that they weren't trusting him because it flipped so quickly and they were really smiling and faking his face, well, everyone other than Izzy. So I can see why he probably thought it was something worth saving, but he didn't realize the danger that he was in. And they've spoken about and Cirie and Felicia spoke about how it probably wasn't the best idea to get rid of Hisam in the Reds, and I mean I agree with that. So like like them going, it was definitely a mix of in my opinion just paranoia and just it was dangerous that just were not immediate because I do think that Red and Cameron were going to be an issue. Hisam was going to be an issue, but they could have been handled at another time. Like you have Jag here that ended up winning.
Yeah. And Red was nommed against the winner, so I can't fault him. They were wrong. 100%. So
I mean, he woke up and said, "Let's do this," because, so yeah, I'm gonna go with the 3 as well. I feel like. I don't. It's so weird because he was doing well socially with that group, kind of the first week, those first couple of days. But once they associated him with Cameron and felt like they were not ever going to be able to be that close to him, they kind of just wrote him off, and then they voted him out when they low-key shouldn't have, because like you said, he was next to a winner. So
yeah. He also didn't talk to anybody but them. It didn't make like that's the other thing with Hisam and Red is that like. I'm not going to bring them lower than the 3 because they only really talked to the people who voted them out and took them out of the game. It's not like they were, you know how sometimes in Big Brother, they see you talking to the enemy and they're like, you literally only talking to the enemy. You're not talking to us and you're ignoring. That was not what happened. Red and them did not talk to nobody but them, and then Cameron. But Cameron was with them allegedly. So it was like, and then it was just, it didn't make any sense, honestly. So I ain't gonna fault them too much for that. Next is Izzy. Next is Izzy. How you feel about Izzy?
Izzy was an interesting player this season. I feel like definitely with the structure that Cirie and her helped create, there was just a level of I feel like I don't know comfortability that I feel like she kind of it's weird to say comfortability because she was always kind of anxious, like it's her in a way. But I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like the way she approached certain things, it's like you a little bit too comfortable. Like the way she would kind of approach people directly about certain alliances and say how yeah you me and Cirie need to get in the room, and she would just be very open with who she was working with, what her ideas was. Like basically the entire house had her clocked and knew what she was doing. There was a period of time when she was the biggest target in the game. And I think that even if the Fields family structure stayed, a shot would have been taken eventually because they wouldn't really, I don't think they would have been able to win comps like that in the end game.
Mm-hmm.
And if the shot was taken, it would have been against Izzy. Like Izzy
Yeah.
would have probably always went home a little bit earlier than Jared and Cirie because at the end of the day, especially now in retrospect, seeing the entire game, she was playing for Cirie and Jared. Like it was really only that. I did want to give her
Mm-hmm.
credit though, because I think a lot of strategic work, a lot of the maneuvering that the Fields Family Alliance was doing was because of Izzy, kind of Izzy's reads and who she wanted to align with. But then on Izzy's plan, though, it's like Izzy wasn't doing what was best for her game. She was doing what she felt was best for the three of them, and sometimes just Cirie and Jared. So it's like that's what the big disconnect is. I really don't know how she does in the second season because I can't fully pinpoint if she was only playing at that capacity because she was with Cirie and she felt a sense of safety because of that, or if she actually is just that type of player in a situation like this. I just I don't know. I think I'm gonna stick with the five though. Well, let me think.
Hmm.
No, I think I'm gonna do a four. I think I'm
All
gonna do a
right.
four. She just turned a lot of people off, and I think that's the big thing. She turned a lot of people off. She was very, very rigid with her with who she wanted to connect with and who she wanted to align with, like, and that's the reason why they kept cutting people out because honestly it was Izzy who was just like, I don't trust this person, I don't trust that person, I don't trust that person. And I mean
Mm-hmm.
Cirie is not innocent in the situation. Cirie was right there with her doing it, but it's like Izzy would show it all over her face and her actions, and it turned a lot of people off, and that's why it was so
Yeah.
easy to flip the entire game on her. If Izzy had better connections,
Mm-hmm.
they would have never worked.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I feel like I think that was the issue with Izzy's game is that she was so quick to shut people off and just not pretend, and she'll just show it in front of everybody's face, and she'll let everybody know she doesn't. She literally hates these people, and she'll just tell everybody that, and she won't care, and that's not good. I also feel like her game does well when she's in a position of control and power. And I think part of the reason she was able to find her footing to get control was the help of Cirie. And I can see in another season, or even if Cirie wasn't here, her never being able to really get that footing to even have that control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, ooh, I don't think she would ever be able to do that good without that type of specific situation. But I remember how well she would do whenever she was like either in trouble or she felt she needed to. She was a lot of the reason why they were able to pull in Cory and they were able to pull in these cameras. She would literally go and have these conversations with the people they talked about pulling in and actually pull them in. And being active that way is good. And people like Cory ended up trusting her a lot because of that. I also remember Reilly when Reilly was HOH, Reilly not trusting her that much. And Reilly got ate up easily, but not a lot of people even attempted to do it. But I remember Izzy going up to Reilly, and after Izzy and Reilly left that conversation, Reilly being like, "Oh, I love Izzy a lot, and I would love to work with her." And it's like, "Girl, what?" And it's like Izzy was one of the people who actually kind of threw everything at the wall. She tried everything. Like she's gonna attempt to do a lot of different things in a lot of different corners, and that helped her game a lot. So I do like that, and I feel like that's always going to be helpful in a game like this. But yeah, like Lee said, like the issues with her game was the just wearing it on her face and everybody knowing, and that's why the game flipped on her so easily. It's because nobody really liked her that much. So I will give her, um, I'll give her a four. I'll give her the four. I'll also give her the four. I will. Dang, girl. Where's the good scores? Okay, I guess we gotta wait till we get further in the game.
Girl.
Um,
Are there any?
I don't know, Jared. So, and that's another thing about this season, especially when y'all be talking about the winner and how he's not that. Baby, this season didn't have nobody that was eating it up at all. Jared, Jared
Like,
did have Jared did have good qualities at the beginning of this game. Jared had good qualities when it came to socially making connections with a lot of the people in the house. We see even like during the jury segment, Cory talk about how, yeah, Jared is somebody who I would want to be friends with outside of the game, and I really liked him. Like it shows that his connections weren't just circumstance. A part of his connection with Cory, I used to think like, is Cory just doing this because he knows he needs Jared in the game? But when Cory was asked in the jury house, he did answer saying that he just genuinely likes Jared and he genuinely wants to be his friend. So to me, that showed that Jared was just he's just good socially. Like he is good socially at a lot of the times. He was able to get a lot of connections with people who I didn't even think he'd be able to like maintain or keep. There's times he'd do shady stuff to Jag, and Jag would still want to work with him a little bit. Shady stuff to Matt, and Matt would still work with him and Cirie. So it's like Jared has something about him that I think people do like. So that part is good. But then there's a lot of bad.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bad because the whole reason Jared even lost this game, Jared probably should have won this game, and he like, kind of lost it because of himself. He was so like abrasive towards his allies all the time. Even Izzy, he would talk about taking Izzy out week 2, week 3 to Cirie if Izzy ever just disagreed with him on a topic. When Cory disagrees with him, he has no he never shuts down. He never just allows them to have it. He just has to argue with them down, and then he just treats them badly. He treated Cory so badly during that week. For like 2 weeks, he treated Cory very badly. He treated America very badly. America never really liked him because of that. And even Izzy, like I said, and it's like you can't be treating your literal allies badly this way over and over again. And I feel like for me, that shows that he just has something that I think that's going to come out a lot every time he plays, is that he's going to either get irritated or he's going to get a little cocky or a little confident, because he just does that often, where he gets irritated with people and he starts treating them just badly or negatively. He doesn't trust his allies a lot. He undermines his allies' games a lot by telling things like telling the secret to Blue. That was very risky. He was calling Jag out about knowing about the power. Those stuff like that is risky. He does a lot of risky things. And I think at the end of the day, even though he has good qualities at the beginning when it comes to his social game, he ruins it kind of. He makes people not like him throughout the game, and that's not good either. So I don't think Jared is the worst of the worst, but I gave him 3.5, and I think I'll just stick with the 3.5, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like, especially seeing it while it's all over, like with Jared, like he really had a lot of help in the situation because his mom was there. Like they were able to kind of play the both sides of the house situation, and because Cirie was this masterful player, like it worked out fine. And I do want to give him credit for creating those relationships in the game early on by himself, like especially like getting Cirie kind of even involved with the family style mix and pushing that loyalty that Reilly had with Cirie. That was a lot of Jared's work, and it was a lot of good work by Jared. I just think that there were a lot of mistakes that took place that was happening throughout that was kind of being fixed or edited because Cirie was his mom. Like even how he mismanaged all of his allies kind of on that other side. He had no separate relationship with Bowie Jane for real, Hisam, Red, anybody in the Professor's Alliance, And then even when you're looking at family style, it's like there were not any connections that were very tight to where they wanted to bring him in a core. Like there was a period of time where Cirie was in a new core and he was the outside person getting brought in. And I remember he ended up getting upset because Cirie and Izzy were in all of these alliances and he was kind of like getting left out of information. But it's like because you were not active in the game anymore. Like he maintained social relationships like the first 1 or 2 weeks. After that, he got into a showman. I don't know. I guess he got comfortable, or
Mm-hmm.
it's like I just feel like he stopped paying attention to the game overall, and everything just went downhill. He started getting irritated quickly about things, frustrated very quickly, and it didn't make any sense. And I didn't know what he thought his end game was. I feel like he didn't even fully know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Is like you can't be doing these things. It's like he would do actions without any thought of how it's going to turn out. Like the lie he told them that Jag said. You didn't think that was going to
The
come out.
repercussions. He
Like,
didn't
you
think
don't
about the
think about the
repercussions.
repercussions. He doesn't think of the after, what happens after. He just says it. And most of it is just lie.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time, he's just lying and bullshitting people. And at the end of the day, it caught up to him because it was always going to catch up to him. He was playing so badly that it was at some point had to catch up. Like, even someone like Cirie couldn't make up for it. And I think that's really what fucks Cirie up, is because she's good at maintaining safety for herself. But I think it's clear in a situation like this, when you have people like Jared and Izzy, who I think are two volatile players, she can't do it for everybody, you know? And it's like that 1 week where she kind of had to be off because of the punishment, that Jared just tanked their entire structure by doing what he did to Cory. And people try to say, well, don't just blame Jared. I'm not just blaming Jared, but at the end of the day, Cory says the reason why he wanted to flip is because what Jared was doing to him that week. If Jared just, I don't know, treated Cory like his ally, like he was, that he was working with for like the first 5 weeks, Cory wouldn't have done that at all. Izzy would still be here. That would have been the structure and power, and it would have been good. So it's like, at the end of the day, like you said, he really fucked his own game up. And I think that it became very quick. It became very apparent that the positioning that was being maintained was not because of his work, but because of Cirie. And I don't think if Cirie was here, he would have been, like, he probably would have been out earlier. I truthfully think so. So honestly, I'm gonna say it's a 3. Yeah.
All right. Next is Mecole. How do you feel about Mecole?
Mimi, one of the other people, I just feel like we really didn't see much of her this season. And a lot of that was because early on she was really loyal to the Brown Sugar Babies. I can't fault her for that. She thought it was a true alliance. She thought it was something like the cookout, like this was something bigger than the game. She didn't realize the whole Jared, Cirie, and Izzy of it all. And I can't blame her for that. But there were other things that she could have been doing, like making connections outside of the Brown Sugar Babes. Like there were people like Cory, America, Blue. These people tried to work with her, and she really, earlier in the game, Jag, she really was not reciprocating. And at first, I think earlier, like for the first week or two, I will say they weren't trying to include her in any family style shit. So I get it. I think that Mimi is the type of person where it's like, I'm not gonna kiss your. I mean, she basically said it. I'm not gonna kiss your ass. Like, but at the end of the day, this is Big Brother. You kind of have to kiss ass. The onus becomes on the person that, well, anyone who wants to win the game. If you're in the position where people aren't talking to you, you can't be like, oh, they're not talking to me, I'm not gonna talk to them. You have to go talk to them. You know what I mean? Not everyone can be a mat in the game, and everybody wants to talk to them and bring them in. A lot of players can be a mat, but some players you can't do that. You have to be the one to go and be that proactive player. And I think that that's just something Mimi didn't want to do, which I think worked for her, especially early on, because I mean her alliance was running the game, and when they were shifting and cutting people out of alliances, Mimi was kind of on the fringe of that, but she got saved because she wasn't being active. So she was someone I think a lot of people saw as, we can bring her in. Even when she wasn't giving too much information, people like Jag and Cory, America were still saying weeks into this game that they could trust Mimi, all the way up until when the flip happened. Cory, she was one of the first persons he ran to and spilled all the beans about the separate alliances that Cirie and them had been doing. And I loved what she did that week when she took that information, she kept it in. She locked in Felicia. She was locking in the group with them. It seemed like it was going good for her. But then after the flip and everything happened, it's like she reverted back to the Brown Sugar Babe of it all. And it seemed like she was under the impression that we're all now on the bottom because Cirie and Jared were on the bottom. I don't know if that's how she felt, but it's kind of, I feel like that's how she acted in the house. Like, she was such a free agent after that. She could have been the Bowie Jane, the Matt and Jag. She could have been the Bowie Jane, the Cory in America. Like, I think a lot of the reason why Cory felt so comfortable even flipping the vote when he stupidly should not have is because he felt like, well, she's not giving me anything. She's not telling me who she wants out. She's not telling me literally anything. And that just caught up to her in the same way Jared's game caught up to him. Like, she couldn't keep going without giving a little. And I get that she didn't want to. She said in her exit press that, you know, she saw the type of players that were going home, Hisam, Reilly, Kirsten. They're the big personalities who are doing a lot. She said, if I don't do a lot, then I could be good. And that works. If this is a regular season, she would be in jury, you know? But it's just, you know, that can only...
You got to adjust to this season also. You really got to adjust to, and not just the season, but what the game is flowing with. At the beginning of the game, that's true. But once this game flipped, you should have flipped your gameplay. You can't keep the
And
same
she
gameplay.
was really in the best. She could have been in the best position in that game if she had just honestly not just fully ditched the brown sugar babes. You keep that relationship with them, but like she could have been in that free agent position, man, where it's like we all. Excuse me. We all think we have Mimi because I think Blue loved her, Jag loved her, Cory loved her, like, and they
Mm-hmm.
all. If she just made them comfortable, more comfortable, and thought that it made her and made them think that she actually trusts them, then she really could have been in this game longer. Like I think she could have won it. I truthfully do. Because I also feel like she was a little comp beast that would have came out too. So I just feel like a lot of potential. I would love to see me play again. Rating this season, I gave her a 4 when she got out. I think I'm gonna stick with the 4. Because I also feel like she's
Mm-hmm.
someone that could learn from this. Like I'm thinking if she plays again, maybe she, would be a little bit more social. Because that's really it. I think if she had everything else, if she was just a little bit more social, that would have been good for her. Because I did also notice that some of her reads were off, but it only mainly because she wasn't talking to people. And I just wish she spoke to some of the other people more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked Mimi's game. I feel like I did when early on she basically said she noticed that the way people were playing the game, she needed to adjust her game, the game that she wanted to play. I like that she thinks on that level, and I think that she consistently kind of thinks on that level throughout the game. You see it when she's in the storage room and she's talking about how she understands that Cirie and them have a lot going on that she's not a part of. She understands her position. I love like really self-aware players, and she was very very aware of, I feel like, her position in the game. And we even saw it like towards the end of the game whenever she did need to start linking up with Cory in America. She did start realizing it. It was a little too late though. And I feel like, and it wasn't, she didn't do enough work towards it. She like had one big conversation or slightly here, and it's like, it's not enough. And I think that that was her issue, is that whenever she would try to do stuff or whenever she did decide to do things, she never fully committed. You needed to fully commit to some of those things near the end game, and she never did that. Um, and like you said, when the game kind of flipped and she continued to do this coy thing with Cory and not really telling him information, he didn't feel trustworthy of that, because especially because the game had flipped. The dynamics had changed. And I feel like what I like about Cirie and Jag's game is when the dynamics of the game changed, they changed their gameplay. I feel like everybody else stayed the same player they were before that big flip,
Mm, that's kind of
other than
tea.
other than Cirie and Jag, 100%. I think, and not even, I wouldn't even say other than Jag, because Jag was always very active. It just didn't work. But during that transition period from him getting evicted to the flip, he was very low key and he wasn't doing a lot anymore. And I feel like he picked it back up when it flipped. And I think with Cirie, she switched the way she was playing, which was way more actively to way more like low key. And I think that's why I would say that those two are like some of the more better players this season. And with Mimi, I feel like she didn't switch anything, and she really, really needed to. And I think Mimi could have been up there with them, like near the end of the game, if she switched her gameplay and became more active, like way more active. She could have switched her entire game around, and I think it would work. It would have worked out really, really well for her if she snatched up Blue how she needed to, if she got with Jag and Map how she needed to, or Cory in America, wherever she needed to go. If she would have put a lot more active work into it, I think it would have helped her out, because she probably would have went home that week if she put in more work with Cory in America, because they even knew it was bad when they were doing it. It was weird.
Literally.
It was really weird. They knew it was bad while they were making the move. So she shouldn't have even went home when she did, and I feel like that's because she didn't flip that switch on. But I wouldn't say that makes her bad. I think she just got in a really particular situation. This season was very interesting the way that it happened. And I feel like she still has a lot of good reads. She still has a lot of good qualities. The fact that she's very smart, the fact that she is very low key, she's able to like understate her threat level. I think she is able to win comps. She's able to make people feel like they can bring her in. And I feel like these are all really, really good qualities. So I'm gonna keep her at the 5. I feel like I would say Mimi is an average like Big Brother player. Like this game was like the game she played this game, like that's something an average player would do. You played good enough, you were aware enough, you were open enough, but not too much to where you could make it that far. So I give her a 5. Cameron, I gave Cameron a 2, and that was because of his comp abilities. I'm gonna keep him at the 2 because of his comp abilities. When it came to the game, like strategy, social game, because at the end of the day, Big Brother really is about social connections. You have to have some, and Cameron only had one ever, and even that person turned against him within after one conversation with somebody else. Red was not fucking with him. They broke up. So it's like, if that's able to, and Bowie Jane took him out with her HOH. If your closest allies are so easily swayed against you, then your social game has to be ass, trash, booty hole. And it is. And at the end of the day, you have to have some, like, that's the core of Big Brother. If you can't get that, then you can't be good. Like, it's really, really hard. He's only getting the two because he's very good at competitions, apparently. Other than that, there's nothing else to his game. Strategically, even if he has like, I guess, strategic thoughts because he's a fan that regular people or like recruits don't have, like him thinking to even make an alliance. Recruits don't do that, or a lot of them don't. So I think Cameron has like hints of strategic thoughts because he's a fan, but other than that, he's not good at it. He has no social capabilities of doing it, and he has no strategic ability to actually create an alliance or create a group or create anything because he's just not that good. All he's good at is comps. He's getting two. How you feeling?
Yeah. I mean, girl, you ate it up. You wrapped him up in a bow. No notes. I agree with the two. I think also like it's funny. I feel like a lot of people would compare Jag to Cameron, and it's like I just think they're not comparable. Like
That's silly.
Jag was able to win because he is better than Cameron. Like, and I guess you could say, well, him being better than Cameron, like Cameron's a low bar, but you see the points.
There's a lot of low
It's a
bars
lot
here.
of low bars.
I think this was a
And
very
this is
like
not
low
just
tier
this is
cast.
not specific to this season. I mean, we're obviously no experts, but I think any analyst probably agree. Like some of these casts are not in that competitive. None of them really are that competitive when it comes to strategy, social game, anything really.
Mm-hmm. Child. Okay. Cory. You gave Cory a 5. This was the highest. Well, this would be the highest rating you give if you keep him there. So how do you feel about Cory?
Yeah, I do feel comfortable keeping him at the 5. I think that he's someone that could really improve if he had a second chance. Like, masterminding that flip was really great for his game, and we kept speaking on like if he was just able to take control after that point, it would have been perfect for him. Like, the jury had interviews, and they really all mentioned how Cory would probably win, other than like two people. So I feel like he's definitely someone that can garner the respect. He has the strategic capability. I think the only thing he needs to fix is the social ability, which is not terrible. It's not to a level of like he can't make friends, but like sometimes I don't think he understands certain social cues when people are not like actively working with him or just like straight up bullshitting him. Like when Jared had stopped trusting Cory weeks. But Cory did not catch on until they straight up said in his face, America has to go up. Like, girl, that didn't really need to be said for you to actually finally realize it. Like, I just feel like there were some things he just were not picking up on. Or like even the Mimi vote, like recognizing that this wasn't great for your game and then still doing it. Like, and then not actively trying to create a relationship with Felicia, just kind of, pushing to the side. Like, it felt like definitely after the flip, he only cared about maintaining or perfecting a relationship with Jag and Matt because he was scared of them, which he should have been because they took his ass out. But it's like other people were there. Like he assumed he had a relationship with Bowie Jane, but he never even talked to Bowie Jane. Like he wanted to try to work with Cirie. I mean, that was never going to happen because of Jared, but like he really didn't do a lot of work in that. Same with Felicia. It's just, I don't know. His game really took a tumble after that flip, and I just wish that he was more aware from that point because I don't know, he could have been dangerous. I do think he could have been. But at the same time, also it kind of came down to they weren't able to win the comps. So that is what it is.
Yeah. I feel like I agree with the 5. And I remember like his pre-flip game when he was sucking up to the Fields family and he was making sure that they all trusted him and they liked him and they had the Crossroads Alliance with him, Izzy, Cirie, and Jared. I really liked all of that work because there were a lot of times where I'm like, okay, Cirie, she probably gonna want him out soon. And she wouldn't say soon sometimes. Sometimes she'd be like, no, Cory, we got to take out this person, then Cory. And I was like, okay. So it was working for a certain amount of time. And I love that he was able to recognize he needed to do that and then do it correctly to where they actually trusted him for a certain amount of time. But that slipped away. And that was never going to be a good end game for him anyways. Even if he went with that end game, I don't think that would have been that good for him because they would have eventually needed him to go. And also he wasn't that capable at the comps to where he could just comp out. If that was his plan, I don't know if that necessarily would have happened. Like Jared and Izzy, Jared was good at the physical comps, Izzy was good at the mental comps. and Cory only won one HOH. So it's like if your plan was to go to the end with them and then comp out, that probably wouldn't have even worked. But it was good and it was smart, and him deciding to flip the vote on Izzy, that was very strategic, and only certain type of player would be able to do that. So I think those things do bring him up to like the 5. But when you get into like the things he struggled with, like him, the lack of, I don't know what that was. After the flip happened and he just didn't really do much and he kind of I think he's too complacent. His complacency within the Cirie structure was too much, and then his complacency without it was too much too. Like he gets way too complacent until it's the very, very last minute. And then he's like, okay, we'll take out Matt and Jack next week, actually. And it's like, that's the last minute, babe. You just now deciding this. You should have been decided that. And then I'll flip on Izzy at the last minute. And it's like, you didn't have time to prepare. And we talked about that. I feel like that's his issue. He gets a little too complacent and also confident. He gets very confident about his position. I think a part of the reason he was okay with Mimi going.
Cocky real quick.
Yeah, it turns into cocky very quickly. I think a part of the reason he was okay with Mimi going is because he was so confident about his relationship with Bowie Jane. And he thought Matt and Jack wouldn't have took the shot yet and that they could wait till 7. And it's like both those things combined snowed how badly he needed Mimi to stay. And I think it just comes down to him being overly confident about things that didn't even exist. Why did you think you had Bowie Jane? I don't know. To this day, I don't know why he thought that. So I think that those are like some really core issues that just keep him at the 5 for me. Boom. Next is Blue Hunted. Child.
Hey.
Kitty purr. I think Blue, I gave her a 3.5. I don't see that changing. I think her game, and we talked about it when we were rating her last, because her game at the beginning, you could tell she had some type of like intelligence. Blue is clearly smart. I think she knows how to work the position that she's given or the card she's dealt. At the beginning, whenever she was a part of this little core with Reilly and Jag, and they were heading towards the family style of it all, I think that would have been a really good situation for her. And that's the thing with Blue. I feel like if that season happened where family style just runs it, which happens a lot in Big Brother, she probably would be regarded way more highly, but it didn't. And I think with this season, when there's a lot more going on and a lot more strategy you need to know, it really shows Blue's ass and that she's and how she can really get caught up in stuff. I do like that even with her connection to Jared. I think she was understanding of the fact that he could have brought her far if that power structure stayed there. I think when that power structure flipped, she flipped on it with everybody else. When they flipped on Jared, she was pretending to flip on Jared too. Stuff like that shows me that I do like her strategic thinking. But towards the end of the game, you really saw that it didn't go farther than thinking sometimes. Like she really couldn't actually implement anything. She really couldn't actually do anything with any thoughts she had. And then she started thinking wrongly, wanting to go to the end with Jag and Matt. What? Like stuff like that is like questionable. And it shows that she doesn't really know what she's doing. I think Blue is someone who, if she was a super fan or if she plays again, that she could be really, really good and way more and surprise a lot of people. But in this season, she just wasn't. And she didn't know a lot of stuff. So for me, I'm going to keep her at the 3.5, to be honest.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that she definitely has a lot of potential, especially if if she were to go and like study on BB and really just get up on like the Big Brother social strategy gameplay. Because I feel like she definitely had ideas and inklings, but the reason why she wasn't able to execute is because she's not that fan, and I think that was just the disconnect there. Because I really did love her game in the beginning when she was kind of at the head of the house. Like Family Style was running the game, Reilly was the HOH, and she was kind of the main one pushing the idea of creating these safety bubbles, going to the other side, making relationships with them so that they will target who they want if they were to win. She was definitely just dealing with a smarter minority side because in this instance it was literally Cirie Fields. Like you were not going to trick Cirie Fields. It just was not going to happen. So they were able to clock very quickly what they were doing. But Blue specifically was still able to maintain a sense of safety. Like Hisam didn't want to touch her for his personal reasons. Like Blue and Izzy started to not want to go after her. And I think that while she likes Jared, I do feel like there was a lot of intentionality in her. Is that a word? I used it, child. Linking up with Jared because she was realizing that it's like Izzy and Cirie were basically running the game, and being close with Jared kept her kind of close to that power structure. So I do think there was a little bit of attention in that. Like I think she wanted to make sure by being close to those people that she would be good, and that works. Because even though Izzy and Cirie didn't necessarily like Blue that much, they knew that she was connected to Jared, and that wasn't they couldn't take her out. So she
Mm-hmm.
was always able to maintain a level of safety, but it kind of went away when Jared went home. The house flipped, and I did think that she was going to be able to really take control of this, like this what is it? I'm gonna say Lone Ranger. What is it when you on your
Yeah.
own?
So, yeah, Lone Ranger, solo. I don't know. Oh, there is a word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh my
Right?
god.
Oh well, a Lone Ranger in the game.
Damn.
That someone would want to pick up and get pulled in, but like it really started going downhill when Jag wanted to target her, and I do think it's because I think it has something to do with her basically telling him I would have targeted you because of what Jared was telling me. I
Yeah.
feel like that kind of turned him off from Blue because he saw her as someone that was always going to make a decision that was best for her game, and if that's the case, she's going to take out Jag because she would need
Mm-hmm.
to if she want to win. And that messed her up, and it sucks because I mean she got taken out by her closest allies. Like I think that she could have been the Blue. I mean, she could have been the Bowie Jane to kind of their Mafia three,
Yeah.
and she really wasn't able to do that because of everything else she had going on with her game. I just feel like I don't know. She was just a little bit more knowledgeable on how she needed to come across to people. That would have been better for her. But I'm gonna stick with the three.
Boom. How you feel about America?
I'm gonna stick with America as the three as well. With America, her game was just very simple. I did think that she's not like I don't think she is a dumb player. Like I think a lot of people try to take a lot of her ability away from her as a player. Like I like the fact that she was able to recognize the position that she was in. Like she clocked who was running the game. She clocked who was on the other side. A lot of the time she tried to inform Jag and Blue and Matt of what was happening, but they were so snowed by the Cirie power structure that they refused to listen to her. And then she got into this position to where like both sides not wanting to fuck with her because the Cirie and them side know they ratting her out, and then the other side are so misted that they think that she's just some actual snake when she's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually impressive that Cory was able to maintain safety for her for so long because honestly, like it was ticking down. Like if the field term stayed in power for too much longer, she was definitely going to be cut way
The
earlier
week after,
than
the
she did.
next week,
Like
actually.
it was a good chance because he had that HOH too. But Jared had that HOH, he probably would have done it. But she was never able to kind of get that like that footing for her. Like I think we all wanted her to get this HOH to make a big move, but like America's type of player, if she got an HOH to make that big move, I think that she really would have been taken out after that. For some reason, no one really just wanted to work with her on the level of like legitimate trust, other than Cory, and that just always kept showing up. I feel like in her game, someone that she's trying to trust or is even working for her temporarily, they always end up just turning on her. Like she was never
Mm-hmm.
able to maintain allies, and I can't really tell if that's something that she's necessarily doing or it's just how people are perceiving her. Either way, it didn't work for her game at all because she was one of the few people in jury for a while who had really no win equity. Like there wasn't much that she could do to earn the respect of the players, despite the little game awareness that she had. And so I just like it sucks because there was nothing much that she could change that. Like I think if she was a male, things could be different. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to like her perception and being perceived the way she was, I'm trying to imagine her in another season. And honestly, I could see her in another season getting the same fate of people not wanting to trust her and calling her a snake and woo. So it's kind of like I could see that in just America's storyline, especially like her first time playing. I like that she was aware, and I like that she was very understanding of her position in this game and of everyone else's position of the game and kind of the layout of the house. She's very like good with clocking that. I just think she's not good at a lot of other things. Like when it comes to strategy, I think she has a general concept of it. And I think she could do something with it if she was able to garner strategic respect or strategic bonds or even social bonds, any kind of bond with anybody. And I feel like she really struggled at getting a bond with somebody. Even Cory, her closest ally, he did not listen to her. She would say a lot of right things all throughout the season, and he would ignore her. So that means everyone in the house ignored her damn near every time she said anything. She was not good at making people listen to her. And I do think it's a part of like her approach is very direct. And people don't do that. People don't respond well to that a lot. Even when it was Jag, like when she was telling Jag the most obvious thing ever. He didn't trust her. And I think it was the way she approaches it. She's just like, well, Jag, duh. And she's like, well, Jag, of course. They're working with each, and it's like America. You gotta have like a different type of approach, especially to different type of people. And she kind of approaches everyone the same way too. You can't approach everybody the same way in this house. You gotta approach certain people some certain way, certain people other way. So I think she just had a disconnect with that, which is a big part of the game, and that's the issue. Making relationships and making people trust you and making people trust you strategically. She just was never ever good at, and I think that that's always like that. That's what brought her down all throughout the season. So I'm gonna keep her at the 3-2. But I would love to see her play again, like just for the fun of it. Boom. Here are the people we haven't rated yet, y'all, overall. Starting with Cirie. Cirie got 5th place. And Cirie's a big one. Cirie had a lot of good gameplay at the beginning of the game because she dismantled an entire power structure. She damn near on her own. Like Jared told her about something she already knew about. When Jared did tell her the people in the family style, she had already spoke about everybody in it literally the same night, earlier that night. So Cirie was very aware, and she went to work on dismantling that side very strategically, very good. She broke it up, and she had the entire house on her side for these first 5 weeks. She really ran that game for these first 5 weeks. But she kept making mistakes, which seemed like big mistakes. But because she was so good, it didn't even harm her until damn near it was too late for everybody else. It was the very end of the reign. Like if Izzy would have stayed, it would have been really over for the girls. Honestly, I feel like, and I feel like the Hisam week and the Red week were just so detrimental to her game, and they were bad for her game. Now, Cirie alleges that she did those bad moves, certain bad moves, because she wanted to protect Jared and because she felt like Red was someone targeting Jared. And a lot of the things she says is that she was here to play for Jared, and that some of those moves at the beginning of the game, even though they weren't good, she did want to do it to protect him. And honestly, because I'm rating her game and I'm thinking about what she did in this game, all those bad moves, whether it was for Jared or not, I'm still gonna have to consider. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like even she knows they were bad, she talks about them. So all of that was already bad, and that was the pre-flip. When the game flipped on Izzy and everyone turned against her and Jared, she did a really good job at separating herself from that. It was weird because the week of the Izzy vote, everyone is talking about how Cirie is running them. And then they just forgot or didn't care because once they flipped on Izzy, they wanted to go after Jared. And then after that, they didn't care about Cirie for 5 weeks. So it's like she is still very, very amazing at diminishing her threat level, appearing as someone who people don't need to worry about, wiggling her way into alliances. She was wiggled into a Final Four with Matt, Jag, and Bowie, and it's like they were trusting it at the time she was in it. It got her all the way to Final Five. She was able to make America and Blue trust her. She had everyone in the game trusting her at a point, and it's like, dang, how are you this good? After everyone dismantled her entire side, flipped the house on her side, and they knew it was her side, they were still wanting to work with her afterwards. So I think it shows that she has just a very good, very, very good social game. I think she's good at being aware strategically, and she's very understanding of what she needs to do to position herself. She's great at positioning. She knows that she needs to make an alliance if she's going to flip on this ally. She needs to do this if she's going to flip on this ally. If my allies go home, I need to do this. She's very good at positioning, and she's very good at her social game. I think where she lacks is like some of the strategic decisions, which she's claiming was because she wanted to help Jared. But even afterwards, I feel like there's some strategic decisions she makes, and it's like she's not fully all the way there because there's times where she needs to make sure Blue is targeting Jag and Matt, make sure Felicia's on the right track. And she kind of just like takes too much of a back seat here and there throughout the game. And I think that in Big Brother, it can lead to like a 5th place, like how she got. She needs to make sure Matt was on board with her. And she kind of didn't talk to Matt that week. It was a lot. So I feel like there are some mistakes in her game here and there, but there's also a lot of really good points. But for me, I'm going to give her a 7.5. I'm going to give her a 7.5. And I'm going to stick to that. How you feeling?
Yeah, I think her game, like she earns a high score because her game, despite like some of the mistakes, or just how she ended up in fifth place. Like she is just such a strong, dominant player. Like if she were to get power, or if someone in her structure were able to get power, like in this in later in game, and someone like Bowie or Jag goes, I do think it would be a different story for her. I do think that she could sit in front of two and potentially win because she just has that respect. She has that social game. Even speaking on kind of earlier. I'm not shocked that the house ended up flipping on Izzy in the way it did because I do feel like the way that Cirie and Izzy were maneuvering through the game, it was on a thin line. And it was bound to tip at some point, and it did. Because you can't just kind of cut people off that you're working with and try to redirect here and redirect here. At some point it catches up to you. And the big game of Big Brother is so simple that like not simple, but it's like in Survivor, I feel like when you're blindsiding someone for a vote, it can just move on to the next vote and who we're working with here. And okay, what's this new group? And Big Brother, like you're there for a certain like a longer time. It's not a day a vote happens, it's weeks. So it's like certain relationships, like you can't just assume that Matt is gonna turn on Jag, things like that. Or you just can't assume that you're gonna be able to break this group up at some point. You have to kind of work with the people that you have these natural connections with, because if you go with people who are already have an established bond, then you are going to be that outsider. And this is really what happened to Cirie here, like kind of keeping the people like Blue, Matt, Jag in the gang while taking out the Reds and the Hisams. It I think led to this obvious end game of the people who've already been close together this entire time just sticking with each other. And then you cut off Bowie goes with them. So it's just like that was like some of the mistakes that you were mentioning. I think that's kind of like the big thing that I think really led to the placement that she got. However, like to be able to turn it around though, like because one, even if Cory didn't flip, like if Jared didn't do what he did that week and Cory didn't flip, like her structure stays intact and she or her son probably still wins this game because they had that much of a stronghold on the season. But even without that happening, she was able to get in a position where, like you said, like everyone trusted her so much that she ended up getting to this place. Like honestly, she should have been gone right after Jared. The fact that she made it to fifth place with the type of player she is kudos to how the type of game player she is. And then look at Matt. Matt should not have let Cirie go home. Because I mean, I don't know if he beats Cirie, but there's just a bigger like the respect goes more to him than it does to Jag because their game is so tied together. He looks like he's riding Jag. And so like in that end game, him like not targeting Jag or him especially letting Cirie go this week when Jag wanted it to happen, like it didn't turn out the best for him. So I'm not even like her getting fifth is not even necessarily like too terrible because the person who did it was dumb on his part. Like he should have definitely fought harder to make sure Cirie stayed in this game. And I do think that could have led to a Matt win, honestly, at the end of the day. But I mean, there's no changing that. I feel like I'll go with the 7 overall with Cirie. Because like you said, I really just can't ignore some of the mistakes that led to it. But I do think that regardless of the things that happened, like she's still the best player this season.
Period. How you feeling about Miss Felicia?
Miss Felicia, I love Miss Felicia. I'm not. I will say I'm not shocked that she made it this far because I am and I'm not. Like when we first started watching the season, I was like, oh, Miss Felicia is guaranteed top 3 or top 5, like how she was. But then stuff started happening. She started pissing Cirie and them off. They started trashing her game. The entire house flipped on her. There was a few times Felicia was literally out the door, and it flipped, and she stayed like almost every single week that she was nominated. And I do think that she's someone that could potentially have just that game-winning story. But Felicia overall, she can just be a very sloppy player when it comes to exposing information or exposing who she's working with or just exposing plans, and that turned a lot of people off to wanting to work with her. The good thing is that her threat level is always going to be at a seemingly low level because of how she's perceived. But what Felicia does is ramp up her own threat level to a point where people be like, oh my God, we may actually need to get her out. She's also a player who I feel like if the comps were a little bit more equitable, like they should have been, because she's literally 63. Her game could have took a different turn. Like certain moves could have happened.
She could have won.
She honestly could have won. Like if they were able to take out a Bowie or a Jag, it could have been a different story for Miss Felicia, but that didn't happen. I don't know. It's hard rating her, I feel, because she's a very specific type of player. Like she's a unique type of player.
Yeah.
Like she didn't need to have a good social game. She was always probably going to be in this spot, But just in general, how you should be going in the house playing the game. I feel like she was making a lot of mistakes on that level. So I just feel like I'll go with the 4.
I like that. I feel like with Felicia, what's interesting is like because she was sloppy, but she was very active, and because she's active, she got seen as an equal at a lot of points in this game where usually players like her wouldn't have. Like Mecole being willing to make a final two with her that was a little bit more genuine. It's like a lot of times that older player just gets disregarded, even when it comes to final two. They don't even want to take them to final two. They just disregard them completely. You're not a player. I don't care about you. I don't know who you are. Miss Felicia was in multiple final twos. She was in multiple cores. She was in multiple in-game plans. Even at the end, when Jag and Matt were pretending to be with her and Cirie, at least they were pretending. A lot of times, people just don't even care. And I think that's because you can't disregard Miss Felicia. You have to include her in your thoughts and what's going on in the game. And I think that's because she demands it. And I like that she's that active. I do feel like her activeness continuously helped her in the game. Rewind to week 1, where usually the oldest player gets voted out. She was a part of the reason. She went to Reilly and said, look, Reilly, Kirsten's doing this, this, and this. Reilly was like, okay, maybe I need to you literally saved Miss Felicia. She didn't do it because she didn't find the value in Miss Felicia as a player, but she still wasn't the target because of that, and that really helped herself. There's a lot of stuff that could have helped Miss Felicia just naturally, but also Miss Felicia puts in work to make sure she's good. Even at the end game when she probably would have gotten 5th, her snitching out Cirie to Jag multiple times, I think it made Jag way more comfortable with Miss Felicia than it did Cirie. And at a point, like we talked about with Cirie had Jackson Ode. He had a Final Four with Cirie. It was Cirie, Bowie, Matt, and Jag was genuine to it until he started feeling uncomfortable. And Felicia kept fueling that fire. And I feel like she has these points in the game where I feel like are good for her game, and it brings her a little bit farther. So I do like those qualities. I really do. I'm gonna give her the 4 too. Honestly. Period. Fucking Bowie Jane. Bowie Jane, I think, has some good qualities too. I think because she didn't go nominated all season, and I saw throughout the season how she intentionally prevented herself sometimes from that happening. We saw some awareness from her that I didn't really expect, and we got into Bowie in the final 3 deep dive, so you can really get into it over there. But yeah, she has some intentionality with a lot of her, I think, her decisions. What is very, very just bad about Bowie, and it's similar to how I view Christmas. I think Christmas has some smart things, and I think Christmas is good socially, and I think Bowie has some smart things. I just feel like with both of them, they're just loyal to an extreme fault. They don't care to lose. Bowie Jane was happy that she lost a little bit. She's like, Jag, I want to say, how did your game change? I want to say for the better when you joined the mafia with me. Like, girl, what? You lost. You're a loser. So I need her to like really get that in her head that she needs to be hyped. Like she needs to be the type of player who wants to win, who wants to beat people, who wants to make it to the final 2 and win the game. And she just doesn't have that in her. She wants to play for the team, and we're together. Even if she went with the Cirie people, if she went with the bye bye bitches and they didn't betray her, she would have just been happy to lose to them, I feel. And I feel like for me that just brings her low. I feel like her good qualities and her compatibility is still good, but I'm gonna just give her the 4. I think those good things bring her to a 4, and then everything else prevents her from going farther than that.
Yeah, I agree with the 4. I mean, she just at some point in the game, at the other point in the game, I feel like she was fully playing for herself. Like you said, like even if it wasn't about bitches running it, she probably would have been playing for them. Like that wasn't a great structure for her at all. Like what they thought that she was doing, having a relationship with Cameron and Red, is what she actually should have been doing, and she wasn't doing it. And then even when the house flipped and she was kind of working with Jag and Matt, I do think there was a way that she could have pushed the type of game that she was playing, but she would never been able to do that because it would have meant going against Jag and Matt in any sense of the way, and she was not going to do that strategically, socially, competitively, nothing. So,
period. How are you feeling about Matt?
Overall, Matt, as an overall player, I think that his social game really is great. For the most part, even though I do think a lot of it is just his natural attributes, it doesn't matter. Like it's still going into the social game of Big Brother. So I do think it's good on that front. I just feel like, I mean, for him to be the winner of this season, he definitely should have been a little bit more forceful with the things that he wanted to have happen. Because, like I said, it really was just undeniable at the end of who's all sitting here. Like, that's why Jack was able to say it in his speech. Like, every single week, the person went home because ultimately wanted it. I truthfully believe that. Whether Matt had a different opinion or not, Matt didn't enact that. And I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like Matt had the social connections to where if he wanted to enact that, he could
Mm-hmm.
have. He could have undermined Jack's decisions every step of the way. And he didn't. He did not. He would hear Jack's opinion and most times just submit to what Jack wanted to do. And that is really what ruined him in this end game because he really did have the connections with everybody. Like if he wanted to turn on Jag, he could have done so easily and had everyone in
Mm-hmm.
the game against him at some point. But he did not take that. And then he wanted to go to the end with him, knowing the type of competitor that Jag was. So I just definitely, I mean, I'm beating the dead horse at this point, but I just think that a lot of people overrated his game throughout the season. However, I don't think it's that bad. I think that he just, because he has the self interest that a player needs to win this game, he also has the social game. I just think that if he just learns a little bit more of the strategy side of it. Like the things that y'all saying that he was doing, if he was actually doing, I think he could have won the game. Like
Mm-hmm.
actually undermining Jagger, actually trying to get him targeted in front of him and get him out of the game, or at just maybe taking a shot himself. You know, there were just certain things that I feel like he could have done to earn that respect over him, and he was just not doing. Simply
Mm-hmm.
just not doing.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him a 6. Oh, this is not overall rating, but I've been giving him a 6. So I think I'm gonna stick with the 6 overall. I think that he's really on the cusp of being, I think, someone who could be considered an all-time player. I think he's a recruit this season. I mean, this is not a season of just best great players, and I do think that he's one of the better ones out of this cast. But there's just some things that he's lacking that ultimately cost him the win.
Yeah. What's funny? I was thinking that, like, what you kind of just said, like, he's on the cusp of being a good, like, one of the greats, or not one of the greats, but, like, a greater player. I feel like I was thinking that when you were talking too, because his social game is to the caliber of someone like Cody. But Cody is strategic. Cody is in, like, he's strategic. Really, that's all it is. Matt has like very very little strategy, like very little, like almost zero. And because of that, he's just kind of like above average. And if he was just strategic and he comes back, let's say Matt comes back and plays with the social game he has, if he's strategic, he could be considered one of these, greats of the game. And I think that's why everyone is like trying to wanted to give that to him because they want someone to give
They see
that.
the qualities.
They see those qualities, and it's like he doesn't. I don't think he is there yet. I think he has. If he was strategic, he could be one of those type of players, but he's just social. To me, I feel like Matt is like an Enzo, where he is very social, and that's mostly his game. And there wasn't much else to it, or a Cody from BB16, where Cody was just very social that game, and there wasn't much else to his game. I feel like Matt had some intention here and there, so that was good. And I do think that his social game was pretty good this season. So I'm gonna give him a 6.5 because of that. I think that he has good qualities. If he would come back and play, he can maybe do better. But I feel like people just saw him as like an 8 and a 9, and he's one of the best. But he just didn't do all of that strategic. None of the strategic part of the game was there, and that's why he can't go any higher than that for me. Boom. Last is Jag.
Ken,
Okay, well, hey, Jag and I, do you want to go first? Because I feel like you're
Ken.
gonna be. Let's let you go first, so you don't have to drag my whatever I give
All right,
him.
and then I also want to preface this. This is him as the winner of the season. I feel like put that into perspective as well. Like this is his winning game. So I'm also rating that as well. I just feel like Jag overall. We've talked about it. I feel like we've exhausted the Matt and Jag overall because I've
Yeah.
said so much. But in general, he's definitely made some mistakes. He's definitely shown throughout this season that he is someone that does not always handle things the best. Like the secret HOH, kind of telling everybody about it. That really wasn't the best move strategically. And then volunteering to go after Block after getting evicted 10-0. I mean, even getting evicted 10-0. Like this is something that you can pinpoint to show that he really is not that good of a player. But what I appreciate is that he did grow. When the house flipped on itself, he did take the leader position. And he made sure that what he wanted to have happen happened. Like, did he fluff a little bit in his speech about being the most masterful player and things like that? Maybe. But at the end of the day, he did have his way a lot towards the end of this game. And even before he got evicted, like I said, it's not like his connections were that bad. I mean, he is the reason why the seven deadly sins got formed in the first place. That Cirie, Izzy, and Felicia were slightly loyal to for a period of time. Like the week he went home, it was because the house target Cameron was the HOH. If Cameron wasn't the HOH, does Jag go home? Probably not. He does get saved by the path of power because Matt loves him that much. Matt and Bowie's loyalty to Jag kept him safe when he was not in power. I mean, he was even able to get to a situation where both people in the final three were taking him to the end because of the relationship he made with Bowie separately from Matt, and we all thought that Bowie was closer to Matt. So I just feel like he has great qualities, and I think that it's like a spectrum. Like when he's doing good, I think it's really good. When he's doing bad, it could get really nasty. But I also want to argue the fact that he was doing bad when the game was being run by Cirie. We're all like, Cirie has the highest score. I'm not giving him higher than what I gave Cirie. That's point blank period. If he was getting played by Cirie, someone that we consider one of the best, who would probably ever step foot in his house, I'm not that mad. I mean, Cirie probably snore the fuck out of me too. It's Cirie. Like, it's with like Frankie getting played by Derek. It's like, I mean, but that's Derek. You know what I mean? Like, I understand why someone could get played by someone so great, or like people who got played by Dan. You know, Brittany slightly got played by Dan, but it's just like when the player is that good, I can see how those mistakes can be made. I just like how towards this end game, he truthfully was doing what was best for him to sit in the end. I feel like Bowie was playing for him. I feel like Matt was playing for him at times, or just not necessarily forging his own path. I feel like he took control. He forced his own path. He did what he wanted to do. And some of it was the comps he was winning, but I also saw those attributes when he didn't need to win. And that did happen. We can't ignore the fact that he didn't have any comp win in the double. We can't ignore the fact that he didn't have the HOH when Mimi or Cameron went home. Like, there were times where he was not the one in sole power and still got his way. So for that overall, I am going to go with the 6.5. I feel like maybe if he was not the winner here, I would definitely be a little bit low. If he was not the winner. The thing is, though, if he was not the winner, he probably wouldn't even be in jury. He probably would have went home way earlier because of the type of, he was the target for a while. Like, he was the bigger target in the game since Cameron left. So he probably would have been out way earlier if he was not the winner, but he didn't. He's sitting in the final three. He was sitting in the final three, and then he won the game. And a lot of that was because of the connections that he had with Matt and Bowie that were impenetrable. They were not going against him at all in that game, which had him a safety net of people. Not every player has that type of safety at all, especially the type of game that he was playing. Like I said, you can compare it to Cameron, but it's like he didn't get cut by his allies when he didn't have that power. So I just feel like I don't want to ignore the negative attributes, and I don't want to ignore the positive attributes to his game, like some people are doing. And I just feel like, I mean, that's fitting for the winning game. I'm sorry.
Period. Yeah, I feel like with Jag, I like even before he was evicted, I liked the parts of his game, how active he was. He was the one who created Family Style. He was the one who was going to create this main power structure. That got dismantled by one of the best players in reality TV history. So like even when Lee says like he was going up against Cirie, it's like he was going up against Cirie. Cirie is a heavy hitter. So I feel like that even though he got dismantled and he got in a bad position, first of all, he wasn't in that bad of a position because Cirie was a part of the reason he stayed. Matt approached Cirie about keeping him in the game, and Cirie was okay with it. So it's like at the end of the day, Jag, even though he got evicted by Cirie's structure, Cirie, the leader of the structure, was okay with him staying. So it's like, even in that sense, when he was doing bad, Cirie still had a relationship with Jag. She had this final three with Jag. She was okay with him staying with Matt's power. So even in times when he was doing bad, I feel like he always still had good qualities and ways he can go. And like Lee said, Cameron was the HOH. That was the person who was going to be targeted. And there was a whole like eviction order, and Jag was like what, fourth on it, but Jag was still on it. But he still wasn't going to be the target that week based on the entire structure of that house. That was a very niche situation, Cameron winning. And then when the game flipped, Jack really took control, and it was similar to the control that we saw him try to take week one when he was running Reilly's HOH, running Reilly's alliance. He's the one who put everybody in the alliance he needed to put in them. A part of the reasons it didn't work out was because Jared, who he had no idea was Cirie's son, was a part of it, and that was a big thorn in his side too. So I feel like he showed that after all of that, and after the power structure flipped and he was able to take control, he showed what he was showing at the beginning of this game anyways, that he has the strategic sense, he has strategic prowess, he has a strategic knowledge. And it's funny because what I'm realizing is it's funny because a lot of people were analyzing Jack's game week 1 and 2 and saying positive things. And a lot of people were saying that they recognize Jag is trying to make a structure, and they recognize Jag has a good idea of the strategy of this game. And then it seems like towards the end of it, people kind of forgot that they were saying those things. But it's like y'all were saying positive things about Jag week 1 and week 2. And now y'all just are ignoring those positive things. I don't know, but he's always had these attributes. And when he got to the point of running the game, like Lee said, he did run it. He was a part of the reason that every single person went home in the jury, literally. So we got to give it to him. I like all of those qualities. What I don't like is his threat level. He's terrible at lowering his threat level. People are always going to see him as a threat. I think every time Jag plays, he's going to be seen as a threat, and he's not good at that. If he would have lost the comp towards this like end-to-end game, it would have been bad for him. But like Lee said, when Bowie and Matt won, he didn't go home. So he still had like a hold. And I think that's the duality of Jag's game, is that Michael Burner, when he lost that double eviction competitions, he went home, and Jag didn't. So it definitely shows like a different prowess, I feel. I'm gonna give him the 5.5 overall, to be honest.
5.5.
Definitely.
Oh,
I don't even think that's not that. You shouldn't even be surprised.
I'm not surprised.
You definitely shouldn't even
I'm
be surprised.
just upset.
But yeah, and honestly, like if he didn't win, he wouldn't be the 5. But 5.5, I don't think that's that bad. I think that's that bad. All right, y'all, and that's it. Let me put them in order though. Let's look at how they look. I know Cirie finna be at the top, of course.
Mother.
Oh, look at Matt.
I don't stand by this. You know what? Let me give Matt a 4.
Let me bring it down. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking Blue being below Hisam. I don't think I agree with that, but I don't know if I want to give her a 4 or not. But anyways, we got Cirie at the top. After her is Matt. Then Jag, Cory, Mecole. I think that makes sense. And then a tie with Bowie, Felicia, and Izzy. Wow, pause. This shows the caliber this season had. They didn't have no good players. I would say the only good players were the top 5. Cirie, Matt, Jag, Cory, and Mecole. After that, everybody else, and I mean, that's what our ratings are saying, literally. Those 5 were the only people who I would consider a good player. Everybody else was like bad, honestly. But honestly, this rating looks pretty accurate. The only thing I would switch is Blue and Hisam. That's it. Everything else looks accurate. If you want to see how well these people play, go look at the screen, because we eat it up, period. Oh, no, that's all right. Boom. All right, Lee, any thoughts?
Period. Maybe top 5.
Yeah, I feel like those first 5 are like the better players. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
The only good players, really. Period. All right. Well, y'all.
No thoughts. I feel like yeah, definitely. When it's in like this, it's like, girl, we can talk about the people all season, girl.
We definitely did.
And also, too, like, this is definitely just like a rating based off what we saw this game. Like, if these people played again, I would really interested to see how they would do. But
yeah, me too.
We're probably not gonna get that chance. So
oh no.
Damn. They don't want to do a returnee season so bad. Like the girls want one, and y'all don't want to give it to us.
But yeah, y'all. I mean, that's it. This was a season. This was a season. Thank you guys for sticking with us throughout the entire 100 plus days. We'll be here next season for BB25. And if you were only watching us for Big Brother coverage, we are doing Survivor Amazing Race. Maybe you can check that out. We'll be here for reindeer games. Maybe you can check that out. And we do have a new segment called the BB Rewind coming up soon. So if you're only here for Big Brother, I mean, you can tune into that. Period. And with that being said, thank you for keeping it real with the kingdom. And we out. Bye.